It is the eve of free agency official kickoff, and it's running like gangbusters. We're going to give you every update on the new tight end in town, who isn't coming back, and what do they do next today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends, neighbors, Chiefs Kingdom around the world. Welcome back in. He's Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, our man on the ground who knows everything and then some. So welcome him in. We're going to give you a great show. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, where you get the athletic matrix. And I have the first version coming out here quick. This is just combine data. We'll update as we go through the pro days. You can get that product now, and you're going to see a lot more visualizations from me as well. All my draft building, team building is over on NFL33.com, and you can find me on RGR Football as well. Thanks for making us your first listen. We appreciate you guys being here every single day, because it starts here on YouTube, where you can like and sub and hit the bell. And then get on the audio platforms on Spotify, on Apple, and everywhere there's a free podcast, you're going to find this voice, and hopefully not this face, because that would be very strange for a podcast. But we're brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDON. That's going to get you $20 off of your first purchase right there at Gametime. More on them later. But ChiefsDigest.com is humming there, Matt. Lot to go over about what's coming next, the losses that they've taken in free agency. But we're going to start with there's a new name in town, and I know you've got this up on the site already, but what's your impression about Irv Smith coming into the tight end room?
Yeah, it's a different direction for the Chiefs in the tight end room, because normally in that third spot, they've, in the last few years have had Blake Bell, but they've usually gone with somebody who's, more of a, and I wouldn't necessarily call Blake a tank, but somebody who's a bit more of a blocker, a bit more of an inline player. And that doesn't preclude the possibility that they might even add a, fourth tight end at some point who is more of a player like that. But Irv is absolutely more of a receiving threat. I mean, he has not been the last few seasons because injuries have been a problem, but you go back to him coming out of Alabama in his first couple of years in Minnesota. I mean, he definitely looked like a guy who, could become a real physical presence in an offense. I think, he had about 35 catches a season, 350 yards. He had 5 touchdowns in his second year. And then the injuries really slowed him down. So that's been the real problem. But this is, 6'2", 240, not the biggest guy in the world. So that's why, I don't expect him to be a huge blocker per se. I mean, he's been effective in the run game. If you believe and put any weight into Pro Football Focus ratings, I mean, they'll tell you that Noah Gray's a better run blocker than he is, but doesn't preclude him from, getting involved in that aspect. But this really seems like a guy that can line up anywhere. I mean, absolutely can go anywhere across the line of scrimmage. He can play in the slot. He can play in line. He can play out wide. He can play in the backfield, be an H-back, probably even take some fullback snaps for you. There's a lot of things. I mean, and I've talked about it before. We've been talking about this for years, Ryan. I mean, Brett Veach is enamored with, these Evan Ingram, Trey Burton kind of tight end types. And this is another one, a bit of undersized for the position, but somebody who can move around, do a lot of things, and be flexible in a lot of places.
Yeah, to be certain, he's more of a Noah Gray clone than he is a Travis Kelce clone. That's the versatility here. Funny enough, he came out in the same class as Jody Fortson, who has not been tendered yet. But when he did, he had better straight line speed than Jody, who actually started as a wide receiver at that time. They graded out on the athletic matrix nearly the same, both 88 pluses, which is above the 7-year average running at 87.6. So both plus athletes, at least to some variation or form, they were actually pretty tight. Dawson Knox, TJ Hawkinson, as well as Foster Moreau and Noah Fant were all the top end athletes in that group. So not elite, but good, better than average. And I think that gives you very much on par with what you have in Noah Gray. And as far as it relates to Jody, I understand the injury history has struck them both. Jody's still got something to give. And I think the same thing is true of Irv Smith. The question for me is, I don't know that one of them precludes the other. Like you said, they might be going away from the true wide blocking tight end. Do you think Jody Fortson comes back, or do you think that it's a shift of seismic direction for this room?
Yeah, like you said, I don't think one precludes the other, especially because they're two different flavors of tight end. Irv Smith's got the advantage in that he's 25, so he's younger than Jody is. So, um, I mean, even being 5 years in the league because he left Alabama early, was pretty young there. That gives him a significant advantage. Still being 25, still has some development time. So, you feel like that's why there's a ceiling there. Jody's a little bit older, and even though he is not going to be tendered by the Chiefs, so he will become a free agent, Wednesday afternoon when the new league year begins. Chiefs still want to keep him, but in order for them to offer him that tender, it was going to be a $2.9 million offer that they had to give him to keep him for that 4th year on his contract. So, that's what precluded the Chiefs from being able to, really keep him as a restricted free agent. He'll hit the market, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of suitors. I think that the Chiefs are still probably the team that likes Jody Fortson the most. And this is the best place for him. So I still think he'll be back. The Chiefs do want him back. They just want him back at a more affordable price. So I think it's a way to keep both of them. And like you said, I mean, they're different flavors. I mean, Jody Fortson's more of a red zone threat, a bigger target, somebody that you can throw the ball up to. And, you're hoping that when he's healthy, he can, out jump some guys and outreach some guys. With Irv Smith, I mean, he's going to use his speed and agility to try and win matchups, and just two different types of players. And Jody's not obviously, he's improved his blocking, but that's not his forte. Irv Smith is, no tight end blocks anymore. Let's face it. I mean, we're even pretty generous when we talk about George Kittle being a great blocker. The guys in the 80s and 90s would put George Kittle to the ground. But
Guevara, where are you?
So exactly. So we're on a bit of a curve here, but two different guys. So no, I don't think one really eliminates the other from consideration.
I like that. I say vary the room a little bit more, get more talent in there. That's what I'm looking for. Now, sneakily underneath the radar, at least for me, was the Chiefs got one more signing done, and that is one of their own. Deon Bush comes back, a guy that rode back and forth with the practice squad all season, yet was able to step up when they needed him, knows the system. This makes a ton of sense to me. I'm not surprised, and happily so, that they have the depth back. Is it anything more than just a depth piece that if called upon?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is, and it's a little bit of maybe even, Mike Edwards insurance in case he doesn't come back. You've got a 4th guy, and I mean, the Chiefs would like some insurance there. I don't think there's any doubt about it because Brian Cook's coming back from an injury. You feel like he's going to be 100%, but you don't know that for sure. So even though you're pretty confident in it, you don't mind having some insurance there just in case anything happens with his recovery. You really like what you have in Shamari Connor as a 3rd safety. But you know what? He also plays a lot of nickel and might not be a guy that you want to take from that role and put on the back end if you have to. So maybe you do want another guy. And then you throw in, I mean, Deon Bush is obviously a great special teams player. I mean, that guy has a lot of value there. So there's a reason to keep Deon Bush around, especially if you're the Chiefs and you're thinking more strategically that, hey, this is a guy that you would like to probably have on the practice squad in the season so that he could come in and maybe give you some help if you need some depth in season. So don't think it precludes the Chiefs from necessary, once again, even maybe considering more options at safety, but this just gives them some affordable depth without a lot of investment.
Yeah, and that's got to be exactly what they're looking for. Somebody they can rely on. Now, it's not all roses. Chiefs are taking some losses here, folks. Who's not coming back? How do you replace them? Two guys in particular, right on the backside of this here on the Locked On Podcast Network. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And a lot of us spend our lives wishing that we had more time. The best way to squeeze in that special thing that you're trying to get done and what's important to you is to make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters most to you so that you can make the priority it is and have more time to do it. If you're starting therapy, you need to get into it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, make sure that you give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, which makes it super convenient and able to be adaptable to what you need when you need it and where it's going. You can find anything that you want in terms of your therapist. You fill out a questionnaire. They set you up with a therapist. You have a session. If you want to switch that therapist at any time, you can do that free of charge. Get to the person that helps you learn to make time that makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon. You're going to get 10% off of your first month starting right now. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Go check them out today. If you want everything across the league and you want all the insanity in one spot, make sure that you go sub on to the Locked On Sports Today feed, because it's 24/7. You're going to see my face on there. You'll see Matt now. You're going to see everyone, but it's a lot of news a lot of the time, and that's really what we have going for you. There's a lot of news right now, and we talked in the last couple of weeks, Matt, just about the importance of Nick Allegretti. We're going to get to him in a second, because I'm a little more frustrated right now about the situation with Willie Gay going to New Orleans on a 1-year deal for $5 million. I felt like that was in the budget. And I don't know if that's just a falling out with negotiation, or if there's something else going on. What is your take, and are you surprised by this development?
No, not terribly surprised. I mean, that was at my low end of what Willie Gay might get. I had him in kind of, maybe the $5 to $8 million range. And maybe, closer to the 8 if he got a couple of years added on to it. It's a bit of a surprise to me that another team was only willing to take a 1-year prove-it deal on Willie Gay. I did think it was a little bit more, but remember, Willie is a guy who he's had some off the field issues that are certainly probably a bit of a concern for some other teams that haven't had him in their building and everything. And even though I think that by and large, you can probably put those behind Willie. It certainly was something that probably, impacted his value. Hey, the fact that he was, with the playing time that he's gotten the last few seasons, I think it's a good deal. You might have gotten a team that willing to pay more for him if they thought that, he was going to be a guy that was going to come in and play 100% of the snaps and be that kind of player. But I think Willie's still kind of carving out his role a little bit in this league. So now you compare him to what Drew Tranquill got. And I mean, the Chiefs are definitely telling you that they value Drew Tranquill a lot more than Willie Gay. And I can't necessarily disagree with them. Drew Tranquill's more valuable, that he plays more positions. I mean, I think he played at a higher level last year too. Even as well as even though I think that was Willie's best year, I mean, I think you would still say that Tranquill was the better player, and obviously he's more valuable in the sense that he can back up Nick Bolton. So there's a lot of reasons to favor Tranquill in that spot, and leadership's another one. I mean, even though Willie, as everybody on that team will tell you, is an energy giver, Tranquill has his own leadership qualities that are pretty valuable that the Chiefs didn't want to lose. So, there was a choice made there, absolutely, about keeping what they had with Tranquill, knowing that they were going to lose Willie Gay. But, when you really, really come down to it, I mean, you would have been talking about committing $11 million a year to those two players, maybe in that ballpark. And when you're paying Chris Jones, when you're paying Patrick Mahomes, the kind of money you are, you can't have everything. And that was one of the lines that Chiefs drew. And I mean, it was obviously, I think, something that both sides were comfortable with. I mean, the Chiefs didn't really put much interest in bringing Willie back. Willie kind of knew before the end of the season that he wasn't coming back, and certainly made his peace with that, and got an opportunity in New Orleans that I think should be a good spot for him. Let's see what happens, but I do feel like it's just pretty good indication that the Chiefs were just ready to move on and go a different direction.
I think so. That direction to me screams Cam Jones. Obviously, there's some low-end ERFA contracts came back with Jack Cochran and Cole Christensen. So you have some depth there. You got to feel like they feel going into camp, they're probably in a good spot. Could see a draft pick or a low-end UDFA come back in as well. They're going to round that out. The other big loss in this stretch so far, and we haven't even actually begun free agency, folks. That'll happen tomorrow, and we'll give you the instant rundown as it comes, is that Nick Allegretti is heading to the Commanders. And we have talked about that in the past. He's joining Andrew Wiley. That should be a nice little tandem for them. I find it curious that that's an organization that Nick would choose to play for, although at his age, I can understand it's the payday that moves the needle here. And I do believe that 16 for 3, that's probably more than the Chiefs were going to be able to match. And he's got to do what's right for his family. I don't begrudge him, but he will be missed pretty sorely, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, he's been the 6th offensive lineman for this team. I mean, he's been the first guy in, obviously, whenever they've had an injury along the interior. Obviously, they've used him as their 6th guy in some specific situations and jumbo formations. So, Nick does a lot of things for them, and obviously special teams too. I mean, he's always been on the field goal team. So, and the protection team. So, yeah, I mean, you're gonna miss out on Nick Allegretti. There's no doubt. I mean, having that guy that you could plug and play at any time when one of your veterans on the interior goes down. I mean, most teams aren't lucky enough to have a guy like Nick Allegretti that you can plug in when you lose a Joe Thuney. And, obviously he's played really well in 2 Super Bowls. Chiefs were, I mean, this is a really interesting story with Nick because, last year he's so well positioned to go out and I thought get a job and had no market. Comes back to the Chiefs on, another 1-year deal. And, and if he doesn't get the chance in the Super Bowl, does he get this deal? I don't know, but he gets that chance. He proves himself again. He's got 3 rings. He started a couple of Super Bowls. I mean, Nick's been through the grinder. Washington, he's going to be reunited with Andrew Wiley out there. So, I know he's excited about that. It's a good opportunity for him. And you're right. I mean, you can't begrudge Nick Allegretti finally getting paid because that wasn't an option. Getting paid like a starter in Kansas City wasn't in the cards with the guys that he has in front of him. So he moves on. The Chiefs are comfortable with Mike Caliendo being in that next role, that if he wins that job and is the super sub along the interior line, they feel like he's ready for that job. Played pretty well, thinking the season finale against the Chargers. So they'll see what they got with Caliendo. And hey, it's always possible that the player X comes in and beats him out for that job. You never know. But the Chiefs at least feel right now that they're in a pretty good spot, even with Allegretti leaving.
I want to talk about that and what comes next after that. And after that here, folks, as we get ready for free agency kickoff tomorrow. It's coming up right after this here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We all know it's hard to get tickets to Arrowhead, and it's even harder if you're trying to go to a Jayhawk basketball game, but you shouldn't have to worry about the tickets for the next big event that you want to get to. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports events, music venues, comedy, and even theater events near you with great last-minute deals, all-in prices. You can view the seat from the app as well as the best price guarantee. Gametime takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets to your next event. And to see that seat from the beginning, that's the big thing for me. I want to know where I'm going to be and what my view is going to be. It's the best feature out there. All in prices, no hidden fees, all up front. It's a great deal that you can check it out. And you can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, you just have to create the account and use the redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. It's the best way to go about it. Gametime, get it today. It's last-minute tickets, it's lowest prices, and it is guaranteed. As we get back, things are always more fun when they are guaranteed, and you're guaranteed 24/7 coverage on Locked On Sports Today. Check that channel here. We're going to throw you over to it here as soon as this one's done. Matt, you got a smile on your face. Tell me something's not breaking that I'm missing out on right this second.
No, really just trying to balance about, 13 different things. I mean, we did just get the news about Mahomes restructuring his contract this evening. So he's getting that roster bonus converted into some signing bonus money so the Chiefs can spread that out, getting about $21 million on change in cap space. So that will at least make things easier if the Chiefs have some plans for Wednesday or even Tuesday night.
Well, and it's funny because that was one of the things I was going to ask you about. So we'll just shift gears here. Restructuring Patrick, there was an ability, I believe, to take up to 28, right? So this is a partial restructure, as I understand it, right? Getting 21.6.
Yeah, if my math could be off, but I think that it looks like they converted $27 million into a signing bonus rather than from the roster bonus. He had 34.9. So yeah, you're right. They could have bumped it all the way up to 28 as far as how much space that they created, roughly just under 28. So it looks like they converted 27. That gives them the like I said, I think it's $21.6 million in change. The Chiefs, obviously with Mahomes, their strategy has always been to convert the absolute minimum that they need to in order to create space. Obviously, they're going to create more space one way or the other with L'Jarius Sneed. They won't have L'Jarius Sneed on the books for $19.08 million for this year. So they're going to create a little bit more space there, whether he gets traded or if he stays in KC. But this was the money that every year they don't have to, but when they need to, they can convert some space. And it is a simple keystroke. It's nothing that Patrick even has to do. I mean, the Chiefs have the ability to this contract to just do that every year at will.
Well, and that's a really interesting scenario there because we're also seeing reports here this afternoon that the trade talks continue for L'Jarius Sneed. His agent was effective in going out and finding, by my count and folks that I've talked to, up to 6 teams that have some level of interest. We're seeing a couple of reports today. I don't know if it's true or not. It really doesn't matter who it is. Titans seem to have expressed more serious interest than some others. But that concept of what comes next in that situation would then shift the 19.8 off of the Chiefs books, putting them at 40 under the cap at that point. And so I think that does open up to, if you can get that done, you have the ability to make some moves. If that is the case, and they do decide to move on, I like what you said about Shamar Connor earlier and having the ability to come down into the nickel. Now, Ozzie Johnson's going to be back, but he's coming off an injury. There's a couple of options to let Trent McDuffie go outside, and you have to feel like the opposite side with Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams is fairly stable. You can invest in some more youth in the draft and try to bring that back up another generation. So what do they do with 40 mil, Matt? Where are they going?
Well, you're going to have to put a little bit into the receiver position. That you've got some other places that you can put it, but the bulk of, a good chunk of it probably is going to go into that receiver spot. Now, is it going to be for as big a name as some people want? I'm still not as sold on that. I mean, the receiver market has been kind of slow developing. It has been a little odd, and honestly, a couple of the guys that have gone so far have gone for more money than I expected. So, even though it has been slow, I think maybe some of it has been the receivers holding out for more money. But usually, Ryan, as we know, once you frankly get into Wednesday, the biggest deals are gone, and at this point, with teams having spent some of their money, now guys are starting to take a little bit less money than they were expecting, and that's probably what we need for the free agent market. We probably need the Calvin Ridley deal to get done, and that certainly looks like he is going to stay with Jacksonville. If he gets done, maybe then some other names down the line, but I still think that the name to watch, if you're the Chiefs, it's Curtis Samuel. That seems to be the one with the most buzz and the most connection that I've heard.
Yeah, and that's an interesting concept. The fit is going to be, utilization-wise, going to be very interesting. I think that then opens the door for the type of receiver you're looking for in the draft, and I hope that all comes together. I still have a lot of love for Braxton Berrios just because I like what he brings as a complete package. Another guy that is probably going to be a second or third wave type acquisition, so there's room to maneuver there. But if there was a splash, if there was one thing that was going to catch you just absolutely out of the blue, that is still a relative possibility, positionally, what might it be in this market?
I think that for the most part, the running backs that you would probably pop for a bit more money than you think are probably gone at this point. Although, it just wouldn't surprise me if the Chiefs maybe had to overpay for somebody like a J.K. Dobbins. I think everybody else that would probably be connected to the Chiefs is probably off the board at this point after the musical chairs the last couple of days has been completed. I'm still not sold. I mean, the one position that you could probably circle as being the real sleeper surprise would be the tackle position. I still don't think that the Chiefs are necessarily in a position in the market where they want to pay big bucks for like a Tyron Smith, somebody of that level and stature to come in. The word I'm still hearing is competition that they want to bring in for that left tackle spot. And that's not really, a big guy like Smith kind of money. I mean, what you would certainly think, or even like a David Bakhtiari. I mean, if he were in that kind of ballpark too, I still think the Chiefs are looking at, for a younger, more affordable player to bring in and just to compete for that spot, maybe against Wanya Morris, maybe even beat him out. But let's see. But I tell you what, my sleeper, and I don't want to get anybody too excited because, as you mentioned, the trade market has been, there was at least a few nuggets today, but the way that the corner market has been going, it would not surprise me if L'Jarius Sneed stayed in Kansas City. And that would be the one that hey, if the Chiefs are able to create some space and keep L'Jarius, I think that would be a big get for the three-peat run.
Yeah, that is my preference, absolutely. As trade talk heats up, I try to give it every bit that it's worth. But that is certainly what I think is best for this team in order to try to get back to a third. But you never know. And my sleeper pick, and it's just you and me here, Matt. No one's listening. If you had to put money on it, I'd probably throw a couple bucks way in the corner of the table on Donovan Smith coming back as their last fallback position. Am I crazy?
No, you're not. I mean, I think Donovan Smith kind of probably what he was last year. I mean, he might be kind of plan D. You might have a few other things that fall apart or go by the wayside before you decide, hey, wait a minute, maybe Donovan Smith is our best choice to come in here. And if I'm Donovan Smith, I probably would also not mind telling the Chiefs, hey, you know what? You call me in May or June, I'll be available. So just let me know. But I'm too old to go through OTAs and all that nonsense. But hey, let me know when you need me for camp, or maybe the veteran mini camp. I can come in and stand there in June and watch and everything. But in the meantime, maybe just take a little time. And no, I mean, I think that he's absolutely a possibility. There's a couple of other veterans out there too, that could obviously be available at the end of free agency. That's something the Chiefs will be watching for. And that might even be as a little bit of a surprise here and there, is that the Chiefs over the next week, I think, will absolutely be looking for maybe some of the guys that have slipped through and not found jobs that you're like, kind of surprised that guy's out there. I don't know if there's going to be anybody like Drew Tranquil and Mike Edwards that'll still be there, but Brett Veach is going to be shopping through the bin.
Oh, yeah. The bin is always his spot. You can find him at the bottom of it every year. Folks, make sure that you like and sub and go over to Chiefs Digest here on the platform on YouTube and get to ChiefsDigest.com. The platform goes everywhere, Matt. Everywhere you put information. We appreciate you filling us in today.
Always a pleasure, Ryan. Good talking to you, my friend.
Folks, enjoy your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. It's all going to get crazy. Snowmageddon's coming to my house, so we'll have content for you. Just make sure that you can see through the lines. We'll talk to you then.